Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's make dua inshallah. Let's start. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma antas salam wa minkas salam tabarakta ya dhal jalali wal ikram. Allahumma rabbana yassir wa la tu'assir wa tamam bil khair wa bika nasta'in ya fattah. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. فسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Last class we mentioned concerning the companionship and the relationship with a spouse that amongst the qualities that maintains that good relationship or companionship is that one of spending. How we spend our wealth with our spouses. And we identify that in our society today, it is not just the husband that works and brings an income at home. It is also the wife that also works and brings an income at home. And the rights of the wife to earn and the rights of the wife to be an owner of wealth is part of our deen. That they have that privilege to earn and to own. They both belongs to them as well as the husband or the spouse, the male, also has that right to earn and is responsible to earn and is responsible to take care of his family and also has the responsibility to as well to own wealth. So both parties have that responsibility in deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given that privilege. But however, we had looked at the principle involved in spending. While one might earn money or wealth, spending it and how it is spent is very important. And we draw reference to how a parent would guide their children even though they are what? Earning wealth, they must also be considerate and listen to the opinions of their parents while it comes to spending. We look at how important that aspect of it is, that even in the home, a wife, the person who is in charge of the home is the husband, and therefore spending in the home is also very important in regards to what we buy with due consideration and coordination with each other on the items or the investments or whatever it may be that we decide to do at home. It must be done with due consultation. No one is going to buy something without the knowledge of the other, meaning that it is an item that is going to be used by everyone. Therefore, everyone must at least have some level of understanding or a likeness to that particular item that they want to purchase. Now, that's just spending, and we talk also on the aspect of teaching and in the importance of spending in relationship towards that family and the deen of Islam. How important it is that we teach our children about spending and how to spend money or what they spend their wealth on, and especially on Islam. So we mentioned that up to the last point in class. And out of this, we reach the point where we're going to talk about some of the hadith where it is mentioned here that narrated by Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala on page 573, it mentions here, Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala narrated, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, if the wife gives her husband property, something in charity, from her husband's charity, something in charity, without his permission, he will get half the reward. Sahih Bukhari. Hadith found in Sahih Bukhari. Right? What is hadith tells us? He will get half the reward whilst he has not been consented before, because one or two things is understood here. One, the wife does have a privilege to use from the husband's wealth to take care of herself and even to give us charity. In other words, he cannot say she cannot spend 1 cent. This is my wealth and you cannot spend 1 cent. No. Allah has given her a certain level of privilege, and the Rasul has given that privilege that she at least can have things to eat, necessity of clothes, place that she could stay in, and these basic necessities are seen and proven from Quran and Hadith. Even in the aspects of maintenance of the children is also the haqq and the right of the husband to provide for the children. and it is clear-cut that she could take from this wealth and utilize for her personal needs, because it is her direct responsibility of the husband to provide this. And if she take from that, it is not that she's taken for any other purpose but for her own need, which is part of the right of it. In other words, if this husband and the owner of the house, as we would call him, this is my house, and the husband, he says, all right, well, this is my house, and you don't pay the light bill when the month end reach, and TNT come and cuts it off, leave the money. Well, they say, it's your money. When you give permission to use it, then I will use it. So they come, they cut the electricity. They say, well, they didn't give him permission to take your money to pay light bill, so it remains just so. Now it will tell us with common sense that such things are part of the necessity, that the wealth is there for that purpose, to do these things. Of course, consultation makes it better, but the right there is also important, that you, just like that electricity, the wife also has that important part in the home that she needs to what? Be taken care of. And in respect, so the first thing is what? That right of the wealth, access to the wealth, and to use of the wealth. However, with the permission of the husband, that reward will be doubled and multiplied. Alright? Narrated by Salama radiyallahu ta'ala anha, she said, O Apostle of Allah, I said, O Apostle of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, shall I get a reward in the hereafter if I spend on the children of Abu Salama and do not leave them like this and like this? That is being poor. But treat them like my children. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, yes, you will be rewarded for that which you will spend on them. Hadith found in Sahih Bukhari. Looking after the needs of your children, your relative children, in respect of their being under your guardianship. That brings about the same reward as your own children. So what we learn here, and even in these two hadiths, is the importance of that wealth with the husband and the wife in spending on their family. Now, what is the danger with wealth? See, many a times we get taken aback. Many people, even amongst ourselves, get caught up into the thinking that wealth and having a family and providing for a family with wealth has many different types of consideration. Sometimes we and our children become swell-headed by wealth. How do you mean swell-headed by wealth? It means that we think to ourselves that the comfort that one can gain with wealth, that they become haughty by it, they become proud by it, they become arrogant by it, and we train our children in this kind of respect, that you know what, you can mix with these people. We have a different type of family. That cannot happen in Islam. That cannot happen in Islam. If we, being wealthy, and being a father and a mother being wealthy, and we train our children that we must only associate with a certain type of people because of our position with wealth, and leave out the interaction with the rest of the people who are also Muslims amongst us, and we say they don't belong to our type of people or our class of people. In Islam, there is no class by wealth, or by ilm, or by knowledge, or by being any leader or anything like that. Because what it tells us is that Islam has a level place for unity amongst us. And wealth is not a distinction in that quality. So we must never ever let even our children tell us we have a better car than that person. Or I have a better house, or we have a better house than this person. Never let our children show distinction in wealth amongst what? Our relationship with each other. Whenever this would be drawn up by the attention, this one has a better thing than that person, immediately you correct it with your children. Let them know. Let them know that in Islam, there is no distinction, that we should feel proud or feel better off than anyone else as Muslims. Why? Because the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam showed to us the life of deen was not to strive to show off or to be in a position of who is greater by wealth. He lived a life of simplicity, and he is our example. And we must show this to our children, that wealth is not the example of the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The true wealth is that when it is spent in the path of Allah, not any other form. And this type of discrimination and this type of attitude towards wealth and behavior towards wealth is never becoming of a Muslim and a Muslim family, or of a father or a mother in a family. Especially raising up our children in a society, we as Muslims must be conscious about this fact, that they should never be part of our upbringing for our children. Lest they grow up to be twice as in that condition of being difficult. Sometimes we have habits, and what we learn as habits and being bad habits, when our children pick it up, it doesn't remain the same. It multiplies. It becomes twice as difficult. Why? There's some person a miser, and your children come up on the same quality. They are not only just becoming a miser, they come real hardcore miser. Because they learn from the best. They learn from the best. And that is the quality of these things on spending and attributes and attitudes towards wealth. Especially when it comes to wealth and our children being shown and given comparison with other people. We don't have that. Then we go back to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because he never set an example with wealth to be like that. That is when it comes to spending. Oh, my father could buy this. My mother could buy this to me. You cannot buy this. What that says, and not that they might be very innocent. It may be very innocent. In other words, father never said nothing, mother never said anything. But children see this and they adopt this practice. Then who changes it? Whenever it comes to our attention, we must address it. Because we must not let our children think like this, because it could grow up to become a habit. And when that habit grows into that child and the child becomes an adult, then what happens to it? It now becomes a position that they want for sure. And that's why as parents, part of the discipline is that. So wealth in itself could be destructive to us for our family. When we look at it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Holy Quran, in Surah Tobago, He says to the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, He says, قُلْ إِنْ كَانَ آبَاؤُكُمْ وَأَبْنَاؤُكُمْ وَأَخْوَانُكُمْ وَأَزْوَاجُكُمْ وَعَشِيرَتُكُمْ وَأَمْوَالُكُمْ. He says in this ayat, say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, telling the people at that time when they were making the migration from Makkah to Medina, He says to them, say, Quran mentions, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 24, say, if your fathers, that is the parents, your sons, that is your kids, your brothers, that is your siblings, your wife, your spouses, your kindred, the wealth that you have gained and the commerce or the business in which you fear a decline, and the dwellings in which you delight and are dearer to you more than Allah, are they more dearer to you than Allah? Allah is asking, are these things more dearer to you? Is it your wife, your children, your houses, your spouses, whatever is, what is more important to you? Or your business, is this more important to you than Allah? Then Allah says to them, say to them, whilst they were holding back and considering what to leave behind amongst the hypocrites and the munafiq, this was their condition, that they are not going to leave anything behind. They are not going to leave Makkah, knowing that they have their lifelong earnings in Makkah and the status by their wealth. They are not going to leave that behind. They are not going to migrate and be ridiculous and some look as though what? Migrate for the sake of Allah and leave all this? What Allah is going to give me when I leave? What Allah is going to give me when I leave Makkah? This was in their minds. If we watch ourselves today amongst Muslims, what happens to us on wealth? Sometimes, even if we are affected by a minor little what? A minor mishap, or we lost something, or something is damaged, we cannot rest. Loss of wealth, it is affecting us. Sometimes, in our home, if our wives see something that is not compatible with somebody else, it affects them badly. Why you will get this for me? You know, it looking real bad. This looking like that. Looks on what? Wealth. What were the hypocrites thinking? What will I have? What status will I have if I leave from Makkah and I leave all these things behind? What status will I have? We don't have status by wealth. This is what Allah is saying. Who is dearer to you? These things or Allah? Who is dearer to you? These things or Allah and His Messenger? And striving hard in the cause of Allah. Then wait until Allah brings about His dissension. When He brings His test to you, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to you with tests, let's see what you're going to do. Let's see what you're going to do when that condition will come. Then He says, Allah guides not the people who are fasiqun, who are fasiq, who decides not to be on the path of true deen. This is the danger of wealth. That if wealth comes in our hearts, it takes control of our lives. It can destroy us. It can destroy a husband. It can destroy a wife. It can destroy our children. Because what is the evil of wealth? When wealth takes the position where Iman should be rooted. When wealth takes the position where Iman should be rooted, then all destruction would happen. Because then when the husband starts to love wealth, he no longer has love for wife. He may have love for everything else but wife. He may then now see his business and his position with wealth being more important and spend less time with his family. And if the wife come whole to wealth, what happens? She doesn't have time for husband but have time for every beautiful magazine that you'll find. What is the best decoration to put in here? What is the best thing to do with here? Never mind about the husband and the affairs of the husband and what will be better for the husband in the akhirah, but what will make the place look the best. Nothing is wrong with decorating and keeping your place good. But if the effect of the wealth starts to take position over Iman for the akhirah and the effort for the akhirah, the life of the hereafter, and our life is being lost behind the position of wealth, then know that our spending and our life is on a path of destruction. And that wealth has now become a danger for us. If our money cannot be used for the akhirah, then something is wrong. Something is wrong with that wealth. And that is the danger of wealth. Whenever it starts to come in between our relationship, check what is happening. Check what is happening to us. Whenever wealth comes between our relationship, we will be losing out in something that is very important. When a husband and a wife say, I work in day and night, we work day and night to build this house. Day and night to build this house. And you say, every day and night you work in, how much time you miss Salah in that time? You work in day and night, no problem. But did you pray Salah during the days and night? But we was working day and night to what? Build the house. For what? The wealth to build that house. I said, nothing is wrong with the wealth. But what takes precedent over the sacrifice? The most important thing in the relationship was that. Not that is making big sacrifices are not important. They are important. But what do we compromise? What do we compromise in that relationship when it comes to that wealth? So it tells us clearly here in this ayat of Quran that the Sahabas radiallahu ta'ala anhum, those people who were there amongst the munafiq and hypocrites, they were actually identified by their giving up of their wealth. In other words, when we own these things, how much of it you are prepared to give for the sake of Allah? Sometimes it's hard to part with our wealth. We find it difficult to give a little bit after we get so much, because you don't know how hard I work for this money. You want me to give it now in the path of Allah? You want me to give you to spend this in the path of Allah? So husband is saying what? Yeah, give something now. Wife saying, you don't know how much effort you make and you want to go and just give away everything. Well, give away everything, give away everything. You know, sometimes when they start that word, give away, give away, give away. Then you say, right, the husband what? He has to what? Calm down, I can't say this no more. Because he's one part, she's a different part. Because there's what? This scene that she finds that you shouldn't give, so much. And he's saying, give. And then if you get the opposite direction now, husband saying what? Then you become like somebody who want to give away everything. No, you can't do that. It can't happen here. So it can happen both ways. One is a little more miserly than the other. And you see, when you're a giver and a miser, it doesn't really go hand in hand. Both parties are doing the same thing, to give. And get rid of the disease of being miserly. It's easier to work with each other like that. So we understand what is the danger of wealth. Now, the verse was revealed about the people when the order came for the migration from Makkah to Medina, which was obligatory, and then they did not migrate for the love of their wealth, home and family which had stopped them from moving. That is those people who denied Allah and did not want to migrate. So they work hard, they want to keep their wealth. But they did not have Iman and trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But those who accepted Islam for what it was, migrated and leave everything behind. And that sometimes we have to do as a family at times. Sometimes we live in a community. Sometimes we live in an environment that is not the best place for our children and you're bringing up a family. And it might be just good enough to pack up everything and go in the best environment to protect our relationship, to protect our home. In other words, if we want to find the best environment for ourselves and to remove ourselves from the sicknesses and the evils of a place, then sometimes it's best to migrate and move from that place. If that becomes a condition for us, we have to move, give up certain things. But then that migration should not have been for the purpose of what? Well, you see, down here it's real difficult to live here. You can't live country life. Go where you can make money. Live that type of life. So you migrate to where you can make money. And this is what the dream of the family is. So they move away, not taking out the harm and the dangers that they're putting themselves into and their family with. So migration is not just the whole thing, but it should only be done for the sake of protecting ourselves and our deen. So men should understand that the responsibility that comes with wealth and should not be misguided into thinking that they are in control over their wealth, but rather it is Allah's commands in regards the wealth He has blessed us with. It is not our wealth, it is wealth from Allah. It is wealth from Allah. And we will be questioned about this wealth. Don't think that we have wealth and the money that we earn and all that belongs to us is ours. We will be questioned about it on the day of Qiyamah. Both husband and wife will be questioned about the wealth that they possess and what they did with their wealth. How and in what manner they spend their wealth. What would we say? What would we say? A woman spending her wealth in support of her husband. What do Islam tells us? It says the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith that this life is a joy and its best joy is a good wife. Mar'atus salih. And a woman is married for 4 reasons. Amongst the 4 reasons is for her wealth. What it tells us, the first among the qualities is her wealth. That it tells us in this hadith that one, a woman has the right to possession. She could own wealth and she has that possession to wealth. The second thing it tells us is that you could marry a woman who is wealthy. And thirdly, it tells us that she has the right, even in that relationship, to continue to have wealth and she could spend the wealth on her husband. Because if you can marry her for her wealth, it means that you're marrying her to also what? Support you in some way or the other. This is what the hadith is also telling us. So, in the condition, it is for that. But it is not the condition only that the hadith says. Because it says, for her beauty, for her religiousness. And amongst the 4 qualities it says, for her piety and taqwa, her religious quality is what is the main reason for marrying her. Not the wealth, but we are talking about spending and wealth. And if wealth is one of the positions, its criterion of the hadith is telling us that a person could marry even if it is for wealth, but it should not be the main position. And that she has a right to her wealth. Alright? So the woman has the right to spend her own money in all circumstances, whether in a transaction or otherwise. Whether this involves all of her wealth or part of it, it doesn't matter. It is her wealth. Whatever she owns and it belongs to her, it is hers. And she chooses to spend all of it, some of it, she could do whatever she wants to do with it. But we had mentioned due consultation is the best approach. Not to do it on your own, because you are not living by yourself in this relationship. In other words, when you have money, it's not just your money anymore you're talking about. You're talking about, yes, it is yours, but the relationship that you are in cannot work like that. It cannot work like that. Like if you own, say me and you buying a vehicle in half, and today you get vexed. You say, you know what? The engine is mine. I take out the engine and you drive the car without the engine. Can't work. It can't work because you cannot own the engine and one own the body. It will never work that way. So if you're buying half and half, make sure if you're buying the car, split the engine in half as well as the body. Try and work it that way. But really and truly, our wealth needs that due consultation. So while she has the privilege, she must as well understand that in this relationship, we must be considered to the fact that while you could spend, know how important it is to spend with due consideration. This is the opinion of the majority of scholars and is of the opinion of the Hanafi view and the Shafi'i and the Hanbalis and the Muhaddithin. Alright? In relationship to how a woman could spend her wealth. Now, look at the other aspect of wealth. What other aspect of wealth do you look at? How do we save in a relationship? What do we save and how do we save in a relationship? Could we save wealth? If we look at the life of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he save? How much wealth did he save? None. How much wealth did he leave for his children? None. His wives? Nothing. His life was totally opposite when it comes towards the way we live. When it comes to what? Wealth. Because we are told that we must save. And we must save. And we always want to save. And we always want to have something to safeguard ourselves. We always say we put aside something for a rainy day. No, nothing is wrong with savings. But we must understand what to save, how to save, and what to save for and when to save it for. Because if we save it for hard up and he comes by your house and say, I am hard up, and you give away all the wealth, you have what? Nothing to get. So what you have to look at is what to save money for. Why do we save money? Alright? What to save money for? So, the Quran tells us, Kulu washrabu wala tusrifu. Eat and drink, but do not waste. Do not waste. And that means we must save. And saving means do not just pile up a bank account or to just have a large sum of money and we call that saving. Why does the Quran say, Kulu washrabu wala tusrifu? But do not waste. Do not waste what it means. Do not waste here doesn't mean that you just buy things or save things. What it means is do not waste and just buy something and just use it again and just throw it away and say, well, I fed up, I want to buy something else new again today. And just wasting things on wealth and it's not necessary to be utilized by ourselves unnecessarily. And just squander your money like that. This is not what the Quran is telling us. Wala tusrifu. Do not waste. Because every single piece of wealth that a man is blessed with, he has to account to Allah for it. So if we own something, we have to account why we own that. If we build a home, what could we do with that home? How we could account for every room in our house? Would we allow some kind of class to take place at my house, or have some good intention that some barakat or something will come in my home and I can use it so I get some blessings for having this home this size? What could we account for when we have to account for every single room in our homes? Every single bit of thing that we own, we have to account for it. No. When we look at our homes, and without exaggeration, we all know, and I will not say that it's not affecting all of us, it's affecting all of us. In our homes, we decorated with all types of things. How many types of vessels that we have? How many of us just only have, each in our family have one cup to drink from and one plate to drink from? No way. That is impossible. Because we all have our nice little hutches and cupboards with glasses lined up all over. Plates and decorations of all different sorts. And that's not the set we eat with, those are decoration sets. The other sets that we have is to really what? Eat and drink from. We understand? This is what we look at. This is what, is this useful? Is this not wastage? It's not wastage, we are saving it. No. What the Quran is telling us that we have to account for all these things. We have to account for all these things. it is not that we are doing something haram, isn't that so? What is haram with it? Nothing is haram with it. Because the plate is halal. We can have a plate, we can have 100 plates. We can have 1,000 plates if we want, 1,000 cups if we want, 1,000 glasses if we want in our home, and if it's just 4 of us, we can still have 1,000 glasses. Nothing is wrong with it. It's all halal stuff. And with earnings, if a person owns and he earns wealth, if he spends it on haram, then Allah prohibits him earning haram and spending on haram, even if he earns haram. So for example, halal. So if he earns halal and decides to do what? Gamble his money. What happens to his wealth when he gambles his money? It becomes haram. He takes his halal and makes it haram. He decides to buy some haram food with it. His halal wealth becomes haram. If he decides, I want to go out with this lady tonight, his money becomes haram. Halal earning becomes haram earnings. What a danger in our lives. If a person takes his halal wealth and makes it become haram for him, and he utilizes it in a haram form, but he says, my money, I could do whatever I want with it. I earn this money. I earn it. I ain't thief it from nobody. It's my money. Yes, it's your money. So I could go online with who I want. I could drink what I want to drink. I could buy what I want to buy. I could buy 1,000 cars. I could buy 1,000 of this, any amount of things I want to buy. But how much of it is really halal? How much of it becomes disliked by Allah? How do we know? How do we know that everything that we possess is loved by Allah? Understand the position. It is not that we cannot have things. It is not that I'm trying to say something that is disliked or to make us feel that we should not do these things. But we should think consciously about ourselves, what we own and what we spend on, and whether Allah will be pleased by our spending. And that we cannot have something good. It's not about talking that we can't have a new vehicle, or we can't have a new home, we can't have good things. But it should be within a limitation. It should be within our means. It should be within such reach that it leaves us the opportunity to live a comfortable life in the ibadat and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when it comes to saving, what do we save? And that is important. And what do we save for? Because a man, when he spends his wealth, I mentioned in the last class of 3 qualities. One of them is that he spends on his family and he spends on himself. But the wealth that he spends in the life of the hereafter, or for the life of the hereafter, that is his true wealth. That is his true wealth. All the other wealth doesn't really amount to anything except he may get some sadaqah or some charity out of spending on his family. But what he spends for the akhirah is what he's going to really earn from. And everything else he leaves after that is going to be inherited by somebody else. No wealth will be our wealth after we die. We don't own anything. So if we save, who benefits? Who we leave behind. Not us. Not us. They now become controllers and owners of it and are accountable for it. Only what we spend on, what we take our money, whether we buy halal with it, whether we buy haram with it, this is what we are going to account for. No one else. So if we take our wealth, save our wealth and buy something haram with it, who gets accountability for that? We. If we take our wealth and buy something halal with it, we get the blessings for it. If we take our wealth and spend it in the path of Allah, we get these blessings for it. And if we take our wealth and save it, what do we get for it? What is the reward for saving money? If I save 500,000, how much sadaqah are we going to get? What is the reward for 500,000, 1 million, 10 million? What is the reward in saving it? Any reward? There is nothing to get in saving. Not that we cannot save, because there must be a purpose in saving. That is the understanding here. If we save without a purpose, then there is nothing to get for it. It is just a saving. The only thing that comes with saving, and people fool us to think, and many people fall for it, is interest. Once you save, you have more interest to get. But the more interest we get, is the more serpents attack our stomach. Is the more destruction comes to our way. So therefore, saving has its benefit and its destruction. If we save to do a good deed, we say we're going to save to buy a property, no problem. What you're going to do with property? You might want to buy and sell properties, no problem. You could do business, any amount of buy, any amount of trade you want to do. Buy and sell properties as much as you like. Buy and sell cars as much as you like. Buy and do whatever you want. Make profit out of it. No problem with that. You could save and do all these things with our wealth. As a family, we could do these things. If we want to save for our children, what we saving for our children for? What we want to give our children? We save to bring up our children with a good education. Nothing is wrong with that. Save to take care of the health of our wife and our family and our children. Nothing is wrong with that. Save to give our children the opportunity to become something good or give them a start in life. Nothing is wrong with that. We could help them all the way with these things. And after that, what do? Save for what? Save for what? And this is what we have to understand. What do we give to our children? The hadith of the Prophet tells us, says the best thing that a man could give to his children is ta'adib, adab, etiquettes. Good behavior, good manners. He didn't say what? Good wealth. He didn't say anything about anything else. But it tells us, another hadith, inheritance, when it talks about many places when the Sahabas came and mentions, you know what, they want to give all their wealth in the path of Allah. He says, no, keep something. It's better that you not leave your children begging. It is better that you not leave them begging or by like a wayfarer. When Abu Bakr was asked about his wealth, he just mentioned, I leave Allah and the Rasul. Even though he was the wealthiest amongst them, he said, I left Allah and the Rasul. Why? Because he had that ability and intuition to work and create more wealth. With the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah put more barakat in his wealth. But saving, just to save for any reason, is not a purpose as a Muslim. As a Muslim, we must make our wealth productive for us. Become and make it do something for us. So when we are told as a husband and a wife, you know, just save money. Don't just save money. Buy and sell. Do some type of business. Create something. If you had to buy some kind of thing and sell it back to make a profit, do it. Don't just keep money in our institutions or places to earn interest, because as Muslims we cannot what? Earn interest. What we could do? Buy, trade, transactions. What about life insurance? You say, well, a husband will take out life insurance. So when he dies, tell himself, when I die, well, my wife will benefit. And then what happens? He comes and dies. Leaves what? He comes and dies, he leaves his wealth, and then what happens? He leaves his wealth. What happens? Suppose it happens the other way around now. She comes and dies. Then, he says, well, my children will benefit. He leaves wealth like that. But who really benefits from these life insurance policies? Who benefits the most? You think they will pay $200 and $300 a month and $500 a month for 30, 40, 50 years and then give you $500,000 or $1 million? You know what money they make on that when they finish with it? They take the same thing that we're supposed to do with the same wealth, invest it, and make hundreds and thousands of times the same amount of money and the same money that you put there, little bit. While we can make the same amount as they made on our same wealth. By doing what? What the Quran tells us. And they give us the haram end of it, and we give them the opportunity to do what Allah says is the best, buy and trade. So we must be in thinking to ourselves what to do with our wealth. Why I mention about wealth? Because this is the situation with Muslim families today. They want to save, they want to put their life insurance certificates in place, they want to give health certificates, they want to have medical this insurance, that type of insurance, all these things to safeguard their family. We are lost with what life is about when it comes to wealth. What is the wealth to a family? And to teach our children what to do with money. Because sometimes they don't know what to do with money. And what they learn is what we do with money. So if they see us investing in life insurances, see us investing in this and banking all this money and living like this, then they think that is what you have to do with money. That is what you have to do with money. But if we say, no son, you come to the masjid, take this $100, take this $20, put it in the donation box. You see a person on the road, buy some food, give it to them. Show them what to do with their wealth. Saving money is important, But putting that money in the position of spending and showing them how to utilize wealth is more important than saving it. Because saving it will be useful, but only to a certain extent. Only to a certain extent for the purpose that it is meant for. There might be an emergency. Yes, we need to have something. We are not told to squander our wealth. So therefore, when we are taught this principle of halal earning and halal spending, and we teach our children of halal earning and halal spending, we come to the right principles. But as Muslims, we must be guided by the principles of what there is in Islam when it comes to it. Because we live in a society today where we would say, well, everything, how you could escape going to a bank and not getting interest? How could you do anything else and not escape interest? Because everything that we do has some level of interest. And as a family, how I could tell my children, keep the money somewhere in some bed or something like that. Hide away the money. Don't put it in the bank. We can't say that. Could we? Because everything is about some kind of card you have to use. So therefore, what we have to tell and teach our children is that whilst we save and we are involved in an interest system around us, we have to try our best not to take of these interests, but get rid of these interests. Let them know that we cannot live on interest. And have we ever talked to our children, or as a husband and a wife sit together and consider the importance of not letting our wealth gather interest? In other words, what to do with this money if it gathers interest? Because we think to ourselves, well, that is it. We could live off this when we get older. So they save this wealth and hope to live off the what? Interest when they get older. Well, no one really has that guarantee of living old and having the opportunity to live off their interests. And neither does Allah sanction interest. He says, Ahallallahu bay wa harrama riba. Allah has made trade permissible and He has prohibited interest. Prohibited it. So therefore we cannot get involved in what? Interest. And therefore certain insurance policies, their systems are also based on what? Interest. Now they might say to myself, well, I have a young child. Husband and wife, you say if you start them on a life insurance policy when they are young, what happens? Whilst growing up, they become what? Their premium will be very small. Because if you start early, you pay less. If you start later, you pay more. So they think about putting their child on life insurance policy whilst they are what? At a young age. Husband and wife thinking this is the best thing for my child. Put them on a life insurance. So when they get older, at least they'll be in a better position. Less money to pay. Less money to pay. But what Islam tells us, this is best for our children. To give them that, you know what, son, we have a life insurance policy on you. When you get older, you have less money to pay. That's what we tell them. But what Allah tells us, we are going to teach our children what is haram, or we're going to teach them what is halal. What is best for them? What is sadaqah? So when it comes to wealth, and in this aspect of wealth, when it comes to the earning and the spending, teach our children what is best. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put it in the Quran. He says, قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادَةِ اللَّهِ وَطَيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, He says, in the Quran, He tells us in Surah 7, Surah A'raf, it says to us that, O children of Adam, look to your adornment in every place of worship. Eat and drink, but do not waste. He says, look to your places as the best places of adornment. When you spend your wealth, make sure it is on that place that you make most admirable. That is the place of worship, the house of Allah. This is where our wealth should be adorned upon. If our wealth, and we don't teach our children that their wealth and our wealth is to make the places of worship and this deen become the best thing. And we teach them that, no, it is about these other things. Then we are changing the focus and direction of our children. Today in our society, we see it. Children want the best shoes to wear. They want the best clothes to wear. And where they learn it from? Where do they learn this from? They're not earning money. Parents are spending money. You can't go and buy a cheap shoes and bring it home for your child. Because they don't what? I'm not going to wear that. Who wearing that? No children wear that kind of shoes. You buying that for me to wear? Why would a child respond like this to their parents? Where do they learn this from? This is the attachment to the wealth of this world and the adornment and the way they adorn themselves with wealth. If we have children in our homes and this is the way they would behave towards wealth, think of how far we have gone from what our wealth should really be for us. How to save and what to spend on when our children would think like this. And what we spend on as a family, on our homes, and on our family, and ourselves. And what do we adorn ourselves with? And whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, is this what you should admire? So you say, I could buy this nice clothes, you stand from the mirror, this is the best clothes. When one of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had dressed herself in one of these clothes, and she was standing in front of the mirror looking at it, what happened? He says, oh Aisha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not, you are admiring yourself, Allah is not, does not like what you're wearing. You are admiring yourself and you are honored, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not honored by this. She takes this clothes and give it away. She takes this clothes and give it away. But today, when our wives ask us, how do you look? You know, sometimes you already watch, you say good already. You already watch, you say what? Looking good. But really they want to know what? That is looking good. They want to hear that is looking good. Really and truly. You know, what is the real outcome? Is what we should really say to each other is that, is Allah pleased with what I am wearing? You know, is Allah really pleased with my dress? Because this adornment that we dress ourselves with is not only affecting what? Us, but it's affecting our children. It is affecting our community. It is affecting our life. If we are not dressed with our wealth properly, then something is going to happen to us. Something is going to happen, and we are seeing it in our society today. What is happening with the effects of these dress and clothes amongst our own family and our children in society? We think it is nothing, but it is. It is, because it's a big industry in the world today. When it comes to clothes, it is one of the biggest industry. When it comes to all the other types of gadgets, it's the biggest industry. When it comes to spending our wealth on things, if we ask ourselves in our homes, if we just have basic clothes to wear, we would all say no. Basic clothes? What is basic clothes? 5 suits of clothes. Do we have at least 5 suits of clothes? At least 5? I think if we multiply by 10, might be more the reality, or probably by 20, we might actually come to what we have. Because this is what we think about wealth. Would we wear all of these, to have clothes of something sure that we have probably never wore, that we have purchased already? We just have it waiting. This is what the condition is with wealth. And our children is the same. Every occasion, every condition, we want to buy something new to wear. We are teaching our children and behaving in a manner that our wealth and our earnings is for these types of things. We should not be getting new clothes, but the amount of new clothes, the quantity. So spending, the Quran tells us, admire the places of worship, admire the deen, uplift the deen. Your money should be spent on this direction. This is what the Quran tells us in Surah Al-A'raf, verse 31. Read it, check it out. What Allah tells us in this verse. When it comes to spending our wealth in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it means that one should spend their wealth on those things that Allah will be pleased with. Allah will become pleased with. When we have to save, we save for it for a purpose. We put aside money. But security, to say that we will understand that I'm saving for my children so that they'll have a better future, we can never know what is a better future for our children. Wealth cannot make a better future for our children on its own. What they need with that wealth is good character, good behavior, good understanding of what to do with wealth. But if we teach them that wealth is to do this and that with it other than the path of Allah, then we are going to leave our children only taking that wealth and bringing further destruction upon themselves and further destruction upon us as well. So we must make sure that our children have the proper ta'deeb and etiquette on how to use wealth. Inshallah, today we have spoken on how to spend our wealth and how to utilize our wealth with our families. So in a relationship, wealth is a big thing. And let us not let our wealth distract us from Allah's deen, as we have gotten into a relationship with a husband and a wife. And sometimes the main purpose of that relationship end up being money, and we see it when a relationship goes sour. The most important thing in the whole relationship is not what they shared together, but what they could get from each other. Meaning, how much could be mine and how much is yours. That is the end of it. All the love talk, gone. All the relationship done is now to dollars and cents. How much land, how much inch of this, how much of the house is mine, and how much of this is that. And that's how they go down at the end of the day. Because this deen of Islam tells us a straight way. But if we do not follow the straight way and the right way, we will find ourselves sometimes, may Allah save us from this, save our family from this type of destruction, that even our children, when we were to die, they will fight over what? Property. And then one child will do what? Say, you put one son as the executor, and what he does? He becomes the executive throughout everybody else. No longer executor, he takes executive position. Finish with everybody else. No brother, no sister get nothing. Finish with them. And this is the only son I have who take care of me. The rest of them I take care of me, nothing for them. Islam don't have that, no way to deal with wealth as well. So we have a lot to learn, that in a marital relationship, money is a big, big, big issue. If we don't handle it according to the deen, we will die and leave our family in confusion. We leave our family and ourselves only in a state of destruction. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from that, inshallah. Let's make dua, inshallah. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma anta salam. ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إن كنا من الظالمين فسبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.